Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans.
Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our Aki Banzuke Prediction episode. Jake has informed me that we have a hard cap of 1 hour on this recording, and he could not have picked any possible worse Banzuke prediction to put an upper limit on the amount of time we could spend talking on this.
It's mainly to make you upset, yeah.
And it's already working. There's so much crap going on with this that people obviously already know about. But before we dive into the Banzuke, do want to kind of shout out the JSA has an English language sumo YouTube channel, Sumo Primetime. It's hosted by Hiro Morita, formerly of NHK. I still believe he's going to do work for NHK, but he's kind of working with the JSA in this function now. So yeah, there's an official English language sumo channel from the Japan Sumo Association, and it sounds like they're gonna provide each match during the basho with commentary in English by Hiro Morita. So there could be another option, a official option for people in America or just English speaking countries that don't otherwise have access to sumo to watch sumo through the JSA. So that's very exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to see the content they bring once the Aki Basho starts up.
No kidding. And as you know, a podcast that has had a YouTube channel for much longer than them, we are here to help. You know, if
obviously, yes.
Of course. I mean, I know that things can be tough when you're new to the game, so you know we're here for them too.
Yep, Hiro, I know you're listening. Give us a shout when you need some help pumping up those numbers.
Oh yeah.
Your intro video, which I'm sure already has tens of thousands of views and dwarfs anything that we've had on this channel. We'll teach you how to get up to 10,001 views.
Yeah. Mainly by me watching it. I've had it. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I've been meaning to.
All right, Jake, what upcoming dates do we have for amateur sumo here in the U.S.?
We actually have a ton. Most importantly and urgently, make sure to check out streaming on YouTube this weekend, this Saturday, August 6th, starting at noon Eastern, will be the Iron Belly tournament. That's the second annual tournament in Florida, and it will have I will be running commentary. We were going to have Mac backing me up, but he had an unavoidable thing come up, so I have recruited Caleb Backus out of Lone Star Sumo to help me out on commentary. So I think that's going to be a blast.
Very strong assist.
Yeah, massive upgrade.
Absolutely.
If only I also couldn't make it, so we had to find another person. You know, that's the only thing that could have made it better.
Absolutely.
But real quick list, on August 28th in Dallas, there will be a seminar with actual real-life Gagamaru, who's traveling through Texas. The week after
it's always
that,
a shame when we get fake Gagamaru showing up to these
it's
practices.
Happened. It's happened a million times. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it all over the. No, they did their homework. They did their due diligence. They got actual.
No more false
Gagamaru.
Alarms. Actual factual Gagamaru.
Bingo. And then the following week, as long as he's in Texas, we decided, I guess, let's do the Consulates Cup then. That's Dark Circle Sumo's tournament. And that one will have me and Mac that time allegedly going to help run that one. Following week, oh God, that is 3 weeks in a row. On September 10th will be the U.S. Sumo Open in Los Angeles. Then we have on October 1st and 2nd, the Beer City Sumo Open. This will be the second tournament, just like this summer, from Grand Rapids Sumo Club. And I am working on making it happen where I can go out and visit and get to know some of the people there for that one. And I am just seeing my whole fall fill up here, apparently. And then last but not least, scheduled so far for this year, we have on November 12th, the Texas Sumo Open in Houston. And that's the one that's got actual cash prizes to it. There's a men's division and a women's division, $250 each for the winners.
Awesome. Jake, I'm very confused by this next note that's on the outline.
I forgot I put that on there. I got home from work today and I hit myself in the balls with the hose.
That was dumb of you.
Yeah. We have one of those like fabric stretchy hoses.
Nope. We can't elaborate. We have a 1 hour cap. You're just going to have to leave everybody wanting.
We're going to have an hour and 3 minute cap.
Okay.
We have one of those fabric hoses that like kind of deflates when it's not full of water. And I always like unwrap it from the hose thing and like walk over to the garden and then I turn it on. But this time, I don't know why I was just like off my game. I like twisted the knob and the pressure filled it up and the thing like unwound real fast. Yeah.
And then we can guess what happened from there.
I mean, I already said it. Yeah, it hit me in the balls. And I couldn't not share that with everyone who listens. I have recovered, but nobody was there to see it in person. So I just had to talk about it.
You could have walked away from that with your pride in hand, head held high. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that's at least like a 10-minute thing to just keep you down on the ground, if not more.
It wasn't quite that bad. It was okay. It wasn't good though.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that the important stuff is out of the way. Yeah. Okay.
Unless you're into that sort of thing.
Then good for you. I'll pass.
Yeah, I'm not. I've just been on the internet, so I know that exists. Yeah. All right. We spent probably about 5 to 6 minutes on non-Banzuke stuff. So let's get to Banzuke stuff. Before we can actually get into the rankings, got to discuss the Nagoya Basho. Obviously, we had unprecedented issue where we had Rikishi forced to pull out due to positive COVID cases for themselves or within their stable. And so precedent has been from the JSA. If you're held out due to COVID, you're not going to lose your rank, or if you do lose your rank, very minimally to make room for people that deserve to be in that spot. But how do you address that when somebody's fought half a tournament? What do you do that's fair? So Isekahama addressed the press very frustratingly after the Basho and said, how are they going to treat the COVID Kyujo Rikishi? He said, basically, it's the same as before. We treated them with fairness. So Rikishi that were Kachikoshi or Makekoshi prior to going Kyujo, such as like Tobizaru, who was 8-4 in the ring prior to being pulled out, will be promoted or demoted accordingly. Regarding any rule or precedent that was created to deal with future cases, he says we can't do that. It's the Banzuke. Basically an allusion to the saying that the Banzuke is a living thing. So you can't set hard, fast rules in stone because the Banzuke is an ever-changing thing, which obviously we know as we're trying to chase down the formula.
More likely, my interpretation of this is like, I don't want to set precedent that I will have to remember in the future.
Yeah.
So it makes it easiest to me to be vague for now, and we'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. But there is one more thing that happened that kind of can give us a clue, pretty much confirming what we thought would happen. They always announce the Rikishi that are going to be promoted up to Juryo so that they can do all the Sekitori things that they need to be doing prior to a Basho. So there were 3 Rikishi that were promoted to Juryo, and we had 4 Rikishi with demotable records at the bottom of Juryo, but one of them was Oshoma, who was forced to pull out after day 8 with a 5-3 record. So we only brought up 3 Rikishi. We had 4 that could go down. That really makes me believe Oshoma, they didn't drop him down at all. He probably maintained his rank. And so we can assume very safely that the absences are not going to be treated as losses. So what do we do with that? How do we move the Rikishi that were COVID Kyujo? So there's 2 different cases. We have Rikishi with 8 wins or losses prior to pulling out. I've got a bunch of different theories on how we could move these guys around. Using Tobizaru as an example, we could use like a projection of the record using their win percentage for how long they were in the Basho. So Tobizaru was 8-4 in 12 matches, 67% win percentage over 15 days, translate to a 10-5 record. So he could deserve to move up 5 ranks if that's what we think would be fair. We could just judge their record based on what it was on the doyo. Tobizaru was 8-4, so his win-loss difference would be 4. So he could deserve to move up 4 ranks if we think that is the fair way to do it. We could assume a 50-50 win-loss split for the remaining matches. Tobizaru would end up with a 9.5 and 5.5 record. Half wins and losses don't exist, so we would need to choose between treating him as a 10-5 Rikishi or 9-6 Rikishi. So he could deserve to move up 5 or 3 ranks if we thought that was the fair method.
If only there was a number between 3 and 5.
Nope, can't be done.
That we could consider
Nope.
in this situation.
Half losses don't work. And we already have one situation where, besides, I don't think that 50-50 thing's going to fly. We could also just assume that you had 8 wins, so you'll move up accordingly to a Rikishi that had 8 wins and competed for 15 days. I don't think that would be the case, because that would be treating them like all their absences as losses.
Yeah.
But maybe their thought is, well, that's unfair to Rikishi that would be demoted possibly, but if you're getting promoted, a marginal promotion after missing some of the basho, maybe that is fair to them. So there's many different methods, and it's up to us to figure out what the hell is fair for these guys. But even harder is, do Rikishi that did not reach 8 wins or 8 losses deserve to be moved at all? Could we simply freeze them at their rank? Is that fair? For Rikishi that were trending towards losing records, say Tamawashi or Tsurugisho, who were 5 and 7 at the time they were pulled out, is it fair for them to maintain their rank? Is it fair to them? Is it fair to the Rikishi around them, for these guys that were likely going to be Makekoshi, to maintain their rank? And would it be fair to Koto Nowaka, who was 7 and 3 and in the Yusho race at the time he was pulled after day 8? Is it fair to him to freeze his rank at Maegashira 2 when he could move up to Maegashira 1, assuming he gets one more win in that time? He had defeated Mini, Ozeki, and Sekiwake already in the basho. He only had Maegashira left to face, maybe one more Komosubi. And like I said, he was in the Yusho race. Is it fair to him to freeze his rank? So that's what we're going to try to figure out. And I've thought of a solution, and I don't think it's right.
It's the Banzuke. Of course it's not.
I never think it's right.
Every single person involved is going to be pulling a different thing out of their butt and trying to make that work. So
absolutely,
this one's going to be a crapshoot, and I don't think I'm sure there will not be very many precedents that we can draw from this.
This Banzuke is going to be useless to look at in the future for comparison's sakes for the most part. So let's start, as you always do, at the top, Yokozuna's Terano Fuji. So let's go to Ozeki. And this is our first case where we have to make a decision about a Rikishi who was pulled out due to COVID. Mitake Yumi was the one who got this whole thing rolling, and he probably had the most on the line because he was pulled out of the basho while he had a losing record, 2 and 4, and he was Kadoban. Would it be fair to Mitake Yumi to count this as a losing record and demote him to Sekiwake? We discussed this a little bit it was either the midway or the recap episode, but no, we don't think that would be fair. He didn't, even if he went undefeated in his matches, he didn't have enough matches to reach 8 wins before he was forced to pull out. And we also saw Shodai have the same 2 and 4 start that Mitake Yumi did, and Shodai finished with a 10 and 5 record. So I don't think it would be fair to strip Mitake Yumi of his Ozeki rank before he even had a chance to defend it in the ring. So if that's our thoughts on what's happening with Mitake Yumi, then we're just going to shuffle the Ozeki based on who had the best record, meaning Takakeisha will stay as Ozeki 1 East, Shodai will rise to Ozeki 1 West, and Mitake Yumi would fall to Ozeki 2 West. So far, are we treating everybody fairly, Jake?
I think so. And just for people that may not be familiar, because there's only one Yokozuna, he goes on the East, and we have to balance out the Sanyaku ranks East-West. So instead of having an Ozeki 2 East, we have an Ozeki 2 West.
Yep.
So now there's
exactly.
Yeah, evens out.
Moving down to the Sekiwake rank, should be pretty straightforward and easy. Waka Takakage got an 8 and 7 record, so he's going to stay put at Sekiwake East. But little difficulty because we do come to Daisho at Sekiwake West, our second decision that we have to make on what is fair. Daisho was pulled out of the Basho with a 6-6 record. I don't think it's fair to demote him or promote him either way. Equal shot of getting Kachikoshi or Makekoshi. So I think you just have to hold him solid at Sekiwake West. The only thing that I don't know about is if they're going to hold a Fusen loss against them. So we have a few Rikshi, Daisho, Kotoeko, Kotoshoho, who were all even record on the ring, and then the day that they pulled out their Fusen loss would put them towards a losing record. So if the Banzuke committee thinks it's fair that you had a losing record on the dojo, you should be demoted. Then that could be a little bit of trouble for Daisho, and maybe we flip Daisho and Hoshoryu, but I don't think that will be the case. I don't think that would be fair, and that's all we're trying to figure out. Right, what is fair to Ryan?
That is the best that we can say now, because we have no idea what they're actually going to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think for Daisho, it's also worth noting that he had all of his hardest matches already done. So I think it's plenty likely that he would have finished off those last two absences. They very easily could have been wins.
Absolutely. Going to Komusubi, Hoshoryu and Abi both had winning records, so they will stay in the sanyaku ranks. Neither had more than 9 wins, so they won't force open any new Sekiwake ranks. And Hoshoryu had more wins than Abi, so they will stay in the same order. Komusubi 1 East will be Hoshoryu, and Komusubi 1 West will be Abi. Notice I said Komusubi 1, and typically if you don't have more than 1 Komusubi rank, you just say Komusubi East. But
what gives, Ryan?
But what gives indeed. Last Banzuke, I went into great detail as to why there should not be any new sanyaku slots opened up for the Nagoya Basho, and I was absolutely correct about why no slots would open up, because none were. It takes the right situation or like an undeniable performance to open up new slots, and I think we have both a right situation and an undeniable performance to open up some new sanyaku slots.
Hey, real quick, let me transition our view. So now we're looking at Ryan's prediction, because it's about to get real weird.
Yes.
So I thought I'd bring this up. Now we got the whole Banzuke, including color coded for where their record was last time. The dark green are guys that are in the sanyaku now. Light green is people that are being promoted from Juryo, and this middle green is people that had a winning record last time. Mm-hmm. Dark red is people who had a losing record last time. Light red is people that are getting pushed down to Juryo.
Yep. And we have a new color.
And we have a new color. This yellow color here is for people that went Kyujo due to COVID and did not have either 8 wins or 8 losses. As you can see, that's a buttload of yellow that is going to be causing us a lot of concern here.
Yeah. So the first Rikshi that I think will force open a new Komusubi slot is Ichinojo. He had a 12-3 record from Maegashira 2. That should be plenty enough to force open a Komusubi slot. It used to be 10 wins from Maegashira 2 was more than enough to open up a new Komusubi slot. They've kind of upped those standards, but I think 12 wins is meeting that new standard, or at least it should. We saw a similar situation last year when Daisho won the Yusho with a 13-2 record for Maegashira 1. One more win and one higher rank, but I still think we're close enough that it's similar enough. And in that situation, Daisho only forced open a new Komusubi slot when a lot of people thought he was going to open up a new Sekiwake slot. So that will inform us. Daisho did better than Ichinojo here from a higher rank, and he only created a Komusubi slot, so we can only expect a new Komusubi slot for Ichinojo. I don't think it would be wise to assume he would jump up to Sekiwake, even if that is a precedent that some cases in the past put. I don't think that's where we're at right now.
Sure.
But I do think Komusubi should be a lock with him. No Maegashira 2 with 11 or more wins has ever been held out of the Sanyaku ranks the following Basho.
Jeez. Was that during the run where Daisho just like continually got screwed on the Banzuke?
Yeah. Yeah,
there was a couple in a row where it was just like slightly mean decisions, but like there were enough of them.
Mm-hmm. So Ichinojo was the undeniable performance. The just right situation, I think, belongs to Kiribayama. It's been since 1969 since we had a Maegashira 1 East Rikishi with an 8-7 record not get promoted to the Sanyaku ranks. They have even created extra slots 3 times since then to make room for an 8-7 Maegashira 1 East to get into the Sanyaku ranks. My one hang up with that is the last time they needed to create an extra slot to accommodate an 8-7 record, it was in 1995. They seem to be more stingy with the added slots recently, so precedent may not hold, but I think we can look at a similar case where Hokuto Fuji went 9-6 from Maegashira 1 East in 2019 and forced open a new Komusubi slot. So I think they'll do the same for Kiribayama's 8-7. I think typically to force open a new slot, you're probably looking at from Maegashira 2 into Komusubi, you're looking at 11 wins. From Komusubi up to Sekiwaki, you're looking at 11 wins. I think that Maegashira 1 East winning record is a special case where as long as you get a winning record, they're going to bump you up into Sanyaku. So I don't think you have to meet a certain win criteria besides the 8 minimum.
Sure.
So I think that's the situation here. So I do think Kiribayama will also be Komusubi. I do have Ichinojo as Komusubi 2 East, slightly ahead of Kiribayama at Komusubi 2 West, just to indicate Ichinojo had the better record last time, so he should be ranked ahead of Kiribayama here.
Makes sense. Sorry, let me have a longer opinion so you have time to take that drink.
No problem. I'm good now.
Oh, okay.
So,
that was a lot of pressure on me.
Yeah. You vamped seamlessly. Nobody noticed what happened.
Not even a little.
So we get to the zone of death, starting with Maegashira 1. And who I'm putting at Maegashira 1 East, I'm not confident with it, but I am going to give a slight promotion to Koto no Waka. I think it is more fair to him to give him a promotion than to leave him in the spot he was previously. I think a Rikishi that competed for 10 days, fought most of the Sanyaku ranks, and was one off the lead when he was pulled out deserves some kind of promotion. Is it possible that he loses his final 5 matches to end up 7-8? Yes, absolutely. But that wasn't likely to happen. Yeah. You watched his sumo. He already beat the toughest guys on his schedule. That guy was getting at least 8 wins. So I think the fair thing to do is move him up marginally in the ranks. It's not like there's a whole lot of room for him to rise anyways. You're
not going to make a 5th Komusubi slot, you're saying?
I am not. I'm not going to assume his win percentage, which should net him an 11-4, 12, 10-5-ish record. I'm not going to assume that they're going to use that method and bump him up to Komusubi.
That would be quite silly.
It would. Another reason I'm okay with promoting Koto no Waka, despite not reaching 8 wins, is the lack of other viable candidates to take the Maegashira 1 East rank. This is another issue on this Banzuke. Even without the COVID Kyujo madness, this is going to be a very, very lucky Banzuke, as we're going to have to pull from pretty far down the Banzuke to fill out the Joy, and then pretty much Maegashira 1 through 9 to 10 is going to be a lot of lucky fellas.
Yikes. Okay.
From Maegashira 3 to Maegashira 13, there are only 3 Rikishi that had a winning record and did not have to pull out of the Basho. Oh. So 3 out of 22. We have already placed all Rikishi that were previously in the Sanyaku, so we don't have anybody dropping down from below to fill these ranks. We've already placed Maegashira 1s and Maegashira 2s, with the exception of Takanosho, who had a 114 record. We're not going to see him for a long time.
And he had like a regular Kyujo, right?
Correct. It wasn't a COVID Kyujo, so he'll be treated completely as a 1-14 Rikishi.
Wow. Did his stable... Oh, no, he's the same stable as Takakeisho. So
yep.
They didn't... Oh, that'd be messed up if he pulled out for injury and then his stable also got pulled out for COVID.
I think the JSA would use reason and not give him any benefit there.
You probably have more faith than a lot of us then.
Yeah, true.
Anywho.
So the first Rikishi that we can pull up into the Maegashira 1 West spot, or the Maegashira 1 East spot if we decide Koto no Waka needs to stay at Maegashira 2, who had a winning record and didn't pull out, is Meisei from Maegashira 10, who had a 9-6 record.
What?
That's the first Rikishi with a winning record who did not pull out of the Basho. So that would be the easiest person to grab and put in there because there's no confusion. But there has never been a Maegashira 10 with 9 wins that was promoted to Maegashira 1. The highest they've ever gone is Maegashira 2.
Because wait, what? They've gone that far though?
Yes.
I was gonna say because that's completely absurd, but I guess maybe only like regular absurd.
Yeah. So do we have any other options? And I think yes. We do have a couple of Rikishi that were pulled out after day 12, and both had managed to get 8 wins prior to pulling out. That is Tobizaru and Nishikigi. Both Tobizaru and Nishikigi were 8-4 prior to pulling out. Like we said before, Isekahama Oyakata said that Rikishi that earned Kachikoshi or Makekoshi on the doyo would be promoted or demoted accordingly. But the question is by how much? And as already discussed, the potential answers are highly variable, anywhere. For Tobizaru, we came up with situations anywhere from a 5-rank jump that he would deserve to a 1-rank jump. Luckily, for the purpose of figuring out who I'm putting at Maegashira 1 West, it doesn't matter what method we use. Because even if Tobizaru is jumping up 5 ranks or if Tobizaru is jumping up 1 rank, he would still be the next Rikishi deserving of a promotion. So I have Tobizaru jumping up from Maegashira 6 to Maegashira 1 West after basically an 8-7, not even an 8-7 equivalent, an 8-4 record.
Yeah.
And pretty much at Maegashira 2 East with Nishikigi, it's the same story for the most part. If you would just consider giving Nishikigi a 1-rank promotion, he had 8 wins, usually get 1-rank promotion, then possibly we could be looking at Midori Fuji coming in to snake that. Midori Fuji had a 10-5 record from, where was Midori Fuji?
11.
From Maegashira 11. But I don't think that's how they're going to go. So for that reason, I have Nishikigi going to Maegashira 2 East. If he had gotten 1 more win in the final 3 days, this would be his spot anyways. So sure. I'm going to give him benefit of doubt that he would have gotten 1 more win and give him the Maegashira 2 East spot. So at Maegashira West, I'm going to give that to the guy that I think could snake Maegashira 2 East away from Nishikigi. That is Midori Fuji. He has the best remaining case to be promoted, but we're trying to fill a Maegashira 2 spot. He only deserves to be Maegashira 6. So, yeah, we're already pulling from deep down.
Yeah,
Midori Fuji is in line for, if it goes how I think it will, a 9-rank promotion for a 10-5 record.
Huh.
So there are other Rikishi that deserve to be ranked ahead of him, that deserve to be ranked somewhere between Maegashira 4 and Maegashira 6. But all of those are Rikishi that had losing records or were COVID Kyujo themselves that were trending towards a Makekoshi. They hadn't gotten 8 wins before they were pulled out. So we can't push them up to the spot. He is the only option.
Yeah, like I'm looking at Ura was 7-8 from Maegashira 3. It's like, that's not a bad record. He's right there, but he can't move up.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So we'll get to the Maegashira 3 rank now, and we're going to use this as a stopgap to try to prevent other Rikishi from getting as big of over promotions as Midori Fuji did. So Maegashira 3 East, I'm going to leave Tamawashi here. He left the Basho with a 5-7 record after 12 days, 1 loss away from Makekoshi, but very importantly, not quite a Makekoshi.
Not an actual one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've played around with demoting Tamawashi in favor of Meisei, who is next in line to be promoted, but the only way Meisei would otherwise deserve to go ahead of Tamawashi is if we assume all absences count as losses and treat Tamawashi as a 5-10 Rikishi, which, like we mentioned plenty of times, we don't believe is going to happen. So since Tamawashi did not get 8 losses and there aren't any candidates that come anywhere close to deserving his rank, we're just going to leave him there. We're going to say basically your 12 days of wrestling didn't happen. Doesn't matter. We're just going to leave you there.
Just whatever. We stopgap, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing that I would love to see, not necessarily love to see, but I think it would be funny is if they just kept the same Banzuke from Nagoya and brought that over to Aki. It's like, this is too hard. We're just going to keep it the same. Who knows what to do? So at Maegashira 3 West, as you mentioned, Ura had a 7-8 record. Still, the closest person deserving to take his rank is Meisei, who deserves to be Maegashira 7. So this is a pretty clear case of using a 7 and 8 Rikshi to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so with us adding a couple of Komosubi ranks, or projecting them to add a couple Komosubi ranks, this is where the joy would end. Typically, we've been seeing it leak down to Maegashira 4, Maegashira 5. But if we do have, what do we got? 10 Rikshi in the Sanyaku ranks this upcoming Basho, Maegashira 3 is going to be the end of the joy. So we get to the mid-Maegashira ranks at Maegashira 4. We've run out of excuses at this point. We have to place Meisei. There's nobody else that we can pull in front of him. Nobody we can drop in front of him. We can't say, hey, lucky you, Taka no Show, you're falling 3 ranks after a 1-14 record. We can't do that.
I don't think so.
Meisei's got to go here. He's just clearly the next guy to be promoted. And once again, everybody that deserves to be ahead of him had losing records from this rank or lower, so they can't be pulled up here. Maegashira 4 West, this is one of our first chances to breathe easily since the Yokozuna rank. Takayasu sat out of the whole damn thing due to COVID. There's obviously no Rikshi that deserve to take his rank. Like we saw Ichinojo get demoted a little bit after sitting out last time. There's nobody pushing to be Maegashira 4 West. In fact, they're all running away scared of these ranks at this point. So
of Takayasu, yeah,
obviously,
as well they should.
Yeah. So Takayasu will remain Maegashira 4 West. So we get down to Maegashira 5. I have Wakamoto Haru landing at Maegashira 5 East. The next Rikshi with a winning record that would deserve to be promoted is Takada Fuji. So we're trying to fill a Maegashira 5 spot. Takada Fuji only deserves to be ranked Maegashira 9. There are no Rikshi being demoted that we can land here either besides Wakamoto Haru. I think he's the only option. And so he's going to get, once again, very lucky and should only be dropping 1 rank after his 6 and 9 record, where you typically see 2 to 3 rank drop. So minimally lucky, but still lucky.
I mean, it's technically 2 ranks as far as the order goes, because we got more sanyaku. Yeah. But yeah, we don't need to go into that like we do every time there's a sanyaku numbers change.
Yeah, this Banzuke is complicated enough. I did not bother myself at all with trying to think, well, this guy is ranked ahead of more people now or something like that. Nope, don't care.
Yeah, nope, not worth it.
Yep. Maegashira 5 West. Sada Naomi is another Rikshi that finished 7 and 8, so we're gonna use him once again. Keep your rank, stop the bleeding, so that we don't have to pull people so far up the Banzuke. And I guess I'm surprised every time I see that Sada Naomi had a 7 and 8 record. Holy crap, he won his last 5 matches. That's how he did that. I thought he was doing awful.
Yeah.
He just kind of snuck up and won his last 5 matches.
Yeah, well, I mean, he clearly, I thought he had used up a career's worth of luck finally getting a Junyu show at the last one. But I guess not.
Not yet. We'll see if that luck runs out in Aki. Maegashira 6. So we are now at a spot where the next Rikshi that deserve to be placed all deserve to be Maegashira 9 or lower. But we are once again in a spot where 4 of those Rikshi can't go here because they were ranked at Maegashira East or lower and had losing records. Or they were a Rikshi that's going to be promoted from Juryo that needs to wait for a few more Makuuchi Rikshi to be placed that had Kachikoshis before he can be added to the Banzuke. Sure. So the only Rikshi out of 5 or 6 that deserve to be Maegashira 9 and does not fit those groups that I mentioned above is Takada Fuji, who had a 9 and 6 record for Maegashira 12. So I have him getting a 3 rank over promotion and jumping up 6 spots to Maegashira 6 East. And then we get to Maegashira 6 West. This one is interesting, and I am curious to see what they do. It comes down to 2 Rikshi in my mind. We could promote Oh No Show 9 ranks after a 10 and 5 record, similar to what we did with Midori Fuji. Or do we demote Aoyama only a half rank after a 6 and 9 record, just slide him over from Maegashira 6 East to Maegashira 6 West? technically, Aoyama deserves to be one rank ahead of Onosho based on the math, but I kind of just want to see him demoted a full rank. It doesn't feel if he was dropping from Maegashira 6 West to Maegashira 7 East, I would be a lot more okay with it than Maegashira 6 East to Maegashira 6 West. I think they do like to see that numerical difference, even if it's kind of the same as far as the order is concerned.
Sure.
So I'm gonna have Onosho jumping Aoyama here, if not just to move Aoyama down a full rank after a 6-9 record. So I'm very curious to see if the Banzuke committee sees it the same way, because Onosho is lower ranked and does deserve to be ranked lower than Aoyama. So I do think that's an interesting case. So at Maegashira 7 on the east side, since I was debating between Onosho and Aoyama for the previous spot, I'm going to have Aoyama taking the Maegashira 7 East spot here. And then we get to Maegashira 7 West, and it comes down to two Rikishi again, Miyogiryu or Hokuto Fuji. And so Hokuto Fuji is interesting. He was pulled out on day 15 after accumulating a 6-8 record. And this is where it really comes into, do we count the Fusen loss for these Rikishi that were pulled out due to COVID, or is that loss kind of not held against them for the purposes of ranking? If we do not ignore the Fusen loss, then Hokuto Fuji can't go here. He had a 6-9 record and he needs to be demoted.
Sure.
If we do assume that we ignore the Fusen loss, which I'm kind of assuming we would, it doesn't make sense to not ignore it in my mind. And if we go with the record that he put on the Banzuke of 6-8, he would deserve a 2-rank demotion. But there is a small nagging part of me saying, well, he could have ended up with a 7-8 record if he had fought on day 15. And in that case, we would have ended up keeping him here at this spot on the Banzuke to help prevent further over promotions, instead of pulling up Miyogiryu, who deserves to be Maegashira 11, but is the only other Rikishi available that we could place at this rank. Most of the arguments go in favor of giving Hokuto Fuji a demotion, and it's some pretty intense mental gymnastics that get me to the point of keeping Hokuto Fuji at this rank.
You're gonna try.
But there's just too many arguments in my mind to give him a demotion. So I think I've got to lean that way, and I'm going to give Miyogiryu the favorable but not unprecedented jump from Maegashira 14 to Maegashira 7 with only 9 wins. So that's a 7-rank jump for a 9-6 record.
Yeah, I can't argue with the logic, but I am in the fortunate position of just being able to sit here and say I hate that.
Yeah, but at least we can point back to this when Hokuto Fuji does maintain his rank and be like, see, I thought it might happen.
There you go. Next time we have a worldwide plague, we'll have the precedent set.
Yeah. And the reason I don't think they can do that is because the only way they can keep Hokuto Fuji there is assuming a win. And I don't think that you would just assume a win for anybody.
Yeah.
I think
I like the idea the most of assuming they would go 50-50. But like, yeah, I don't know. There's just no data for us to form anything better than pure speculation off of.
Yeah, what I ended up using, what I thought would be most fair, don't speculate, just promote them and demote them based on the record they put in the doyo. So Hokuto Fuji had a 6-8 record on the doyo. He deserves a 2-rank demotion. Sure. Is kind of how I end up treating these guys. Maegashira 8 on the east side. Maegashira, that one's another easy one. Tochinoshin finished with a 7-8 record. We're still really struggling to fill these ranks, so we're going to keep him there in order to prevent us from pulling up a Rikishi that deserves to be Maegashira 12.
Yep, damage control.
Yep. And then I have Hokuto Fuji landing here at Maegashira 8 West, getting a 1-rank demotion. Like I said, I treated him as if he was 6-8 on the doyo, so that would mean a 2-rank demotion. Using that logic, he would be the next Rikishi to be placed here at Maegashira 8 West. even if he competed and lost his day 15 match and ended at a 6-9 record, he would still be the next Rikishi that should be placed at this rank. So I think Hokuto Fuji, I think it's pretty safe to put him here.
Fair enough.
Maegashira 9 on the east side. So I think it's important to point out Maegashira 9 is the rank that Juryo Rikishi Ryuden deserves to land after his 12-3 record from Juryo 1. I think there is a legitimate argument for him to go here. I'm not putting him here, but it wouldn't blow my mind if Ryuden ended up here. We're trying to fill all the gaps we can. We need all hands on deck, even if you are a dirty Juryo Rikishi who doesn't deserve to be anywhere near here.
Naughty boy.
Yeah. Like if Ryuden was the bottom ranked Rikishi in Makuuchi instead of the top ranked Juryo Rikishi, he probably would have gone at like Maegashira 6 where Takeru Fuji went based on his 12-3 record.
He also probably wouldn't have gotten 12 wins in a harder division.
Well, he fought in Makuuchi like 3 or 4 times. But
no,
yeah.
I mean, I know he's...
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I do think there is one more Makuuchi Rikishi that needs to be placed before we can place Ryuden. Plus, Maegashira 9 feels wrong for a Juryo Rikishi. So I'm going to put another Rikishi here that ended up with a Makekoshi but was pulled for COVID, and that is Endo. So I'm going to treat him based on his record in the dojo, which was a 3-9 record. So for Endo, that would be a 6-rank demotion, which makes him the next Rikishi that we are able to place. If you do his demotion based on projecting his 15-day record on like win percentage or even like on the half and half thing,
that puts him at like
he
4
would
11, 5-10 kind of an equivalent.
Yeah, a 4-11 equivalent would. And then he would not be the next Rikishi off the board because that would make him deserving of the M12 rank alongside of Nishiki Fuji instead of Endo deserving the M11 rank. And if both Endo and Nishiki Fuji deserve to be the same rank, Nishiki Fuji would probably get the bump ahead of him due to having the better record. But I think this is about the right range for Endo. That's what I'm trying to do for this Banzuke. We're not going to nail this one. That's out the window. Let's try to just get them in the right range. So I think this is the right range for Endo.
Sure. You're not taking any gambles on this one. You're just whatever you can.
I'm not putting any pride on the line for this one. This one is try to get the guys as close as you can to where they're going to end up and hope you do well enough to not completely bomb it and drop out of the top 10 and guess the Banzuke.
I was gonna say, I know your real goal here.
I'm very mad that this happened how it did because like
you've been on a roll.
This is gonna throw a grenade and guess the Banzuke, and anybody could end up anywhere in the standings, and I really don't want this to tank my good performance that I've had recently. I'm number 5 in the world, damn it. I don't want that to be affected by this. Maybe they should freeze our ranks and guess the Banzuke.
Ooh.
I think I might petition for that.
There you go. I like that idea.
Oh God, I'm not looking forward to posting this Banzuke on Twitter because there's going to be so many people that are just like, well, I don't think they're going to treat them like this. Like, they're not going to promote Koto Nawaka. He didn't get 8 wins on dojo. There's just going to be so much of that. And it's like, and they're going to be right. And I'm going to have to say they were right on the recap. Why are we even doing this? This is only bringing me pain. All right, let's go to a rank that isn't bringing me pain, that makes me feel good and happy inside. Maegashira 9 West, I think should easily remain Kotowako's. He was pulled out after day 10 when he had a 5-5 record. Can't promote or demote anybody that has a 50-50 win percentage, so he should act as another stopgap guy. Unless they do a weird thing, they count the Fusen loss against him, ends up with a 5-6 record, and like, that deserves a slight demotion. But I don't. Even in that point, you'd treat him like a 7-8 Rikishi, I would think, and you would still hold him in this spot.
Yeah, I love that we finally have like the option for even number records, and it feels like we're dividing by 0.
Yeah, it feels wrong.
Yeah, it's just like this mathematical impossibility that just like it's painful to look at numbers that sum up to an even number.
All right, let's get down to the bottom of the Banzuke, starting at Maegashira 10. And at Maegashira 10 East, I have Nishiki Fuji going here. He is the next obvious Rikishi that needs to be placed. He had a 10-5 record for Maegashira 17. His only competition for this spot are Ryuden who I don't think they will place ahead of Nishiki Fuji, since Nishiki Fuji had 10 wins in Makuuchi. Koto Shoho, but he can't be placed yet because he can't rise in ranks, and he was previously ranked Maegashira 11. And maybe Ichi Yamamoto. Ichi Yamamoto on this Banzuke is the worst. I have no idea what's going to happen with him.
You wrote like a page on Ichi Yamamoto. Okay, I'm gonna strap in. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so I have no idea what's going to happen with Ichi Yamamoto, so I'm putting Nishiki Fuji ahead of him just out of spite at this point.
Just because you confuse me, damn you.
Exactly. So, but I can't find. I mean, I can find another place for Ichi Yamamoto, but this is where I'm putting him at Maegashira 10 West. Sorry, my cat. Give me 1 second. My cat's dumb and doesn't know how his cat door works.
So you want in, then he wants out. Then
he wants
in.
out, but the way that it's closed, he would have to pull it in towards himself to open it up.
I'm not sure he could figure out a push door.
No.
Not your cat.
No, absolutely not. And apparently
either,
he doesn't know how to jump over it.
It's like 2.5 feet tall. Come on, man.
I know. Whatever. I helped him out. He's fine now. He's gone. So Ichi Yamamoto, I have him landing at Maegashira 10 West. I hate it. But like I said, he's the toughest to figure out. What do you do with a Rikishi that was trending towards Kachikoshi? Do you freeze his rank? He was 6-2 in the ring and strongly trending towards Kachikoshi. So I can very easily see the world where, nope, just freeze his rank at Maegashira 13. I almost want to go back and revise it. I'm not going to. We're too deep into this. Like I said, I'm not putting pride on this. This is a crapshoot. Who knows what's actually going to happen? This is what I think is most fair.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do.
Yeah, because like Kota Nowaka kind of like hit a ceiling with the Sanyaku. He was the other guy that had like a potentially very good record, but was cut short.
So this is what happened if we treat Ichi Yamamoto's 1 week very good record and project that into a 2 week very good record. So if you do it based on win percentage, he would have an 11-4 equivalent, which would make him need to be ranked where Midori Fuji deserved to be ranked. And so he would end up at Maegashira 2 to the Maegashira 4 range, which is way too high for a Maegashira 13 Rikishi with 6 wins.
But that's like the top end of the possibilities right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If you project Ichi Yamamoto's rank based on his in-ring record, he would deserve a promotion of 4 ranks, 6 - 2, 4 rank promotion, which would have made him equivalent with Takara Fuji. So he would have ended up around the Maegashira 6, Maegashira 7 range, which to me still feels like too big of a jump for a guy with 6 wins and not fair to the other Rikishi on the board. We can't only think about what's fair to the Rikishi that was pulled out. We got to think what's fair to the other Rikishi. If we assume a 50-50 split of wins and losses moving forward, that gets you to about 10-5 or 9-6. We've already discussed what a 10-5 record would be. So let's talk about the 9-6. That would earn him a promotion of 3 ranks and be equivalent with Onosho. And he would still be promoted to the Maegashira 6 to Maegashira 7 range because we're just pulling people so far down the Banzuke. Like this is a guy with Maegashira 13 and with 6 wins going up like 7-8 ranks. I can't justify that. That's not fair to me. So ultimately I decided to go with none of the rules I've described previously on this Banzuke, and I think this makes me almost more confident that I'm just flying off the hip because like, oh, that's what the Banzuke committee do. They're just going to ignore everything and make up some other bullshit.
They're going to mix their idioms and say things like flying off the hip. Yeah, there no rules.
Did I say flying off the hip?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Shooting off the hip or flying off the handle?
Yep.
Shooting from the hip. I got him right now. All right. So
whatever sinks your boat.
Yeah. I'm going to treat Ichi Yamamoto as if he had an 8-7 record to provide him a minimal promotion in recognition of how good he was doing prior to being forced out. Kind of the big kicker for me that made me decide to treat him like this is, does he deserve to be ranked ahead of Miyogiryu, who was 1 rank below him, but finished the Basho and had 3 more wins than Ichi Yamamoto? Ultimately, I decided that wouldn't be fair to Miyogiryu, And the only way to get Ichi Yamamoto behind Miyogiryu and also not shoot him up 4 to 6 ranks is to treat him as though he had a minimal Kachikoshi and an 8-7 record. I also think it's equally likely that they just freeze his rank at Maegashira 13.
So he could be Maegashira 13 or Maegashira 2.
If you do it based on the different scenarios I played out, yes, he has the widest range of possibilities based on the different ways I could figure out how to treat these guys.
I think easily of any wrestler with any record we have ever seen.
Yeah.
I think that is
absolutely
much wider of a window than even that's probably like 3 times the window of second place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my God. Huh.
So another thing, so I'm very reluctantly putting Ichi Yamamoto Maegashira 10 West. Do you think that's fair? Like what's your opinion? Is that fair?
I think so. I mean, based on the context of what's around him, yeah, it's kind of hard to find a spot, but like 6-2 is really good. He probably would have had a worse second week than a first week because if he kept doing well, he would have gotten harder competition. You know, he would have gotten some guys up in the upper Maegashira, maybe even some sanyaku or something.
But we'd have to assume a 6-2 Rikishi would go 1-6 the remainder of the Basho. Mm-hmm. That's almost like thinking that a 6-3 Rikishi would go 0-6 for the rest of a Basho.
That which has never happened before.
No, could never possibly fathom Chiyotaro doing something like that.
No, that'd be ridiculous, especially if I were to pick him as my chump and make you sing a song. But how's that coming, by the way?
I finally hit my wave of inspiration, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Okay, excellent. Still looking at the preview, maybe? Preview for Aki?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Good.
Yep. This is going to take time.
So, yeah, going from Maegashira 13 to Maegashira 10 seems on the harsh end of fair, in my opinion, in a vacuum. Right. But, like, yeah, I mean, with the context of what's around it, I can't, in good faith, say that I think you're wrong, you know?
Okay. I was almost looking for you to say, no, that doesn't seem fair. I think we need to hold him in place. Then I would have changed it around on the fly and kept him. But nope, we're good. We're going to keep it. I don't need to rewrite anything.
Yeah, I see you have an entire second page written here if I were to say so. Yeah. You wrote a long-ass outline for this one.
It is. Well it's done. 10 pages. We're currently on page 8, so let's truck through the rest of this.
We're getting there. I'm still feeling okay.
All right. Another thing that we need to start looking out for at this part of the Banzuke is where will Takanosho fall after his 1-14 from Maegashira 1? History shows anywhere kind of between Maegashira 10 to Maegashira 14 is likely. We've seen him fall as low as Maegashira 9. And with a Banzuke like this, I guess it is possible, but I don't want to talk about it. It makes me upset. Maegashira 11. We're going to de-stress a little bit with another easy rank at Maegashira 11 East, Kodo Shoho, same thing as Kodo Ueko. He had a 5-5 record when he pulled out. So we're going to keep him at the rank he previously was.
Makes sense.
And then at Maegashira 11, I think we finally cleared enough hurdles for us to place Ryuden. So we haven't placed all Makuuchi Rikishi with winning records yet, but the ones that haven't been placed had 8-7 records, and Ryuden was 12-3 from Jurya 1, and there's plenty of precedent that shows he will pass those Rikishi. In fact, there's a really, really good precedent to look at, and that's the last time a Jurya 1 Rikishi went 12-3, and that was Onosho back in Natsu of 2018. He was 12-3 from Jurya 1, and in that same tournament, there was a Maegashira 17 with a 10-5 record, like Nishiki Fuji now. There was a Maegashira 15 with an 8-7 record, like Oho now. And there was a Maegashira 13 with an 8-7 record, like how I'm treating Ichi Yamamoto for the purposes of this Banzuke. So Onosho jumped the Maegashira 15 Rikishi with the 8-7 record. So that tells me Ryuden could very easily jump Oho and Yutakayama, who were either Maegashira 15 or Maegashira 16 with 8-7 records. But Onosho did not jump the Maegashira 17 that had a 10-5 record, or the Maegashira 13 that had an 8-7 record, and Onosho ended up at Maegashira 11 on that Banzuke. So using that precedent, I'm going to place Ryuden at Maegashira 11 West. It's actually just coincidence that they end up at the same ranking. It's more about where they are compared to the other guys. My only real concern is whether he will go ahead of the falling Taka no show or not. Placing a Juryo Rikshi ahead of a Maegashira 1 really concerns me because I do still think joy bias is a thing. And I'm hoping that I did find like some precedent of a Maegashira 1 Rikshi with a 1-14 record and a Juryo 1 Rikshi with an 11-4 record, where the Maegashira 1 Rikshi was placed just ahead of that Juryo 1 Rikshi with an 11-4 record.
So you're saying that it's a hard barrier to break?
Yeah.
To have a flip. Okay.
I'm hoping that the extra win for Ryuden makes the difference, and that's enough for him to pass Takanosho. Another similar-ish precedent are the Juryo 2 Rikshi. We've seen the past couple of Basho that had 10 wins that went ahead of Maegashira 5 Rikshi that only had 2 wins. Those Juryo 2 Rikshi with 10 wins only deserve to be ahead of the Maegashira 5 Rikshi that had 2 wins by 2 ranks, and both of them jumped those Maegashira 5 Rikshi, while Ryuden deserves to be 4 ranks ahead of Takanosho. So I'm hoping that that's enough, and Ryuden does jump Takanosho here, but once again, I'm pointing out that if I'm wrong, I called it.
Yeah.
I'm 50-50 on it. Yeah, I'm 50-50 on it. And at the time I started doing the write-up, I was leaning slightly more towards Ryuden than Takanosho. I waffle back and forth every other minute. So
you've been doing that. I think I'm going to change this after recording face for a little bit here.
I'm not going to. The recording sets it in stone. We're going to keep it as is. I'm just setting the table so I can at least claim that half of me was right, just not the half of me that wrote the outline.
Got it.
Maegashira 12 East. That I'm not going to let Takanosho drop too much farther. I'm going to have him land at Maegashira 12 East, and that is going to go against the math a little bit. There are a couple of Rikshi that could deserve to be 1 rank ahead of him, but I'm going to say this is where joy bias comes into place, and that Takanosho will go ahead of them. We didn't see this favorable treatment for the recent M5 Rikshi that had 2 and 13 records. I mean, everybody was shocked with how Ishiura was treated, like an upper Maegashira guy really got beat up going down the Banzuke. Kind of same thing happened to Onosho. We didn't see that favorable treatment that I'm kind of giving Takanosho here. But those Maegashira 5 Rikshi were outside the joy, and so I'm going to hope that joy bias comes in a little bit, but not too much to push him past Ryuden.
Sure.
And then at Maegashira 12 on the west side, things have started to clear up now. We're only going to be pulling up Rikshi about 1 rank further than what they deserve instead of 4 ranks. Chiyo Tairyu is the next Rikshi that deserves to be ranked, so I have him landing at Maegashira 12 West. Maegashira 13, similar to Hokuto Fuji, Okinaumi was pulled out on day 15 for COVID, so I'm not completely sure how to treat his record. Do we treat him like the 4-10? Do we treat him like a 4-11? Luckily, once again, it shouldn't matter. Either way, he should be the next Rikshi to be placed, so I have him landing at Maegashira 13 East. That's kind of the nice thing with some of these borderline people is like, oh my God, how do we treat him? And then you kind of look at all the possibilities like, oh, it doesn't matter. He goes here anyways.
Never mind. This is exactly where he needs to go.
Yeah. Maegashira 13 West, I have Oho. He's the next Rikshi that could be ranked, and there doesn't look like there's any competition around him for this spot. So Oho, Maegashira 13 West, 2-rank promotion after an 8-7 record. Maegashira 14 on the east side, I have Chiyo Shoma falling to Maegashira 14 East, becoming the first Rikshi that I'm predicting to drop, who had a 7 and 8 record. As I said, things have kind of started to even out a little bit more. We have people that could take the Maegashira 13 rank from him, or at least close to taking it from him. So we could justify dropping Chiyo Shoma fairly easily. And then at Maegashira 14 West, I'm going to kind of hem and haw a little bit and go against where I've placed somebody again, but I'm going to put Tsudu Gisho here with the caveat that I think it's entirely possible that Tsudu Gisho could drop a rank here after he was pulled out with a 5-7 record. I mean, kind of similar to like Ichi Yamamoto. He was trending towards Kachikoshi. We gave him a promotion. Tsudu Gisho was trending towards Makekoshi. we give him a demotion. I'm
That
not
Fusen,
going to.
though, that Fusen made 8. So if they...
Exactly that, and it's the same with Tamawashi at Maegashira 3. Like, I'm gonna assume we're not holding that Fusen loss against them. And the next 2 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked only deserve to be ranked Maegashira 15. So they're not like creating any upward pressure to force Tsurugisho to drop from this rank with an incomplete record. So I'm going to have him staying put at Maegashira 14 West. I feel like I'm using a lot of different lines of logic. So I feel like I'm more in tune with the Banzuke committee. I'm not like picking a hard and fast rule, treating each guy individually and separate and treating them differently. Somehow that makes it fair.
A lot of like real truthiness kind of decisions, like real just gut work, not no need for any of this like silly elitist consistency, right?
No, I've learned. You got to have some contradictions thrown into your prediction at some point.
You got to keep them podcast nerds guessing.
Exactly. We are starting to truck through here. Maegashira 15 on the east side. Just at Maegashira 15, this is the first rank where we have 2 Rikishi that deserve to go here, and they're the 2 Rikishi that are going to go here. This is the first time that we're placing Rikishi like at the rank they deserve to go. But the order they could go in is either or. So it's Yutakayama and Teretsuyoshi. I'm going to go with Yutakayama ahead of Teretsuyoshi. So Yutakayama, Maegashira 15 East, Teretsuyoshi, Maegashira 15 West. Both deserve to be Maegashira 15. Both of them were previously on the east side. So the tiebreaker I'm using is that Yutakayama had the better record. So I have him ahead of Teretsuyoshi.
There you go.
And then we get to Maegashira 16. This will be our final rank on the Banzuke. We've grown so used to Maegashira 17 that I actually wrote that in my outline description because I knew I was at the last rank. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Maegashira 17. Nope. Since we created those new Komusubi slots, that eliminates the Maegashira 17 rank so that we preserve only 42 Rikishi in the top division. So at Maegashira 16 East, I have our second Juryo promotee, and that is longtime Juryo Rikishi Mitoryu. I believe he's been in Juryo, I want to say off the top of my head, 27 years straight basho. Yeah, it feels like 27 years. But so Mitoryu, it's not a slam dunk case for Mitoryu to be promoted. He only deserves to be ranked Juryo 1, so his rank and record combination doesn't even get him up to Makuuchi. But the reason I have him ranked at Maegashira 16 is because the next Rikishi that was in Makuuchi, the rank they deserve to be is Chiyomaru at Juryo 3. So we don't have any more Makuuchi Rikishi that deserve to be in the top division.
We absolutely cannot keep them, is what you're saying.
No. Yeah. And Chiyomaru is guaranteed to go down to Juryo because he was Maegashira 17 with a 6-9 record. And if things go the way I have it, Maegashira 17 won't exist anymore. So there's no way he can stay. But Chiyomaru going down could account for the Ryuden promotion that we already had. So who else are we getting rid of to make room for Mitoryu here? Well, Dayamami was pulled out due to COVID. But prior to that, he had a 2-10 record. 10 is greater than 8. That means he earned his Makekoshi in the ring. He had a couple of those days that he missed were his injury.
Yeah. Okay. So the first days 3 and 4 were like legit injury misses, which would be Okay. Yep.
Counted as losses.
My bad. Okay. It was only the last 2 days that were official absences.
Correct.
Or officially like COVID absences.
Yep.
Yep.
So he had a losing record on the ring / off the ring, but a legitimate off the ring loss. So even if you were extremely generous with Dayamami and assumed he won his final 3 bouts, he would still have a 5-10 record for Maegashira 16 and would clearly need to be demoted. So Mitoryu is the next guy that we could pull up to bring up to Makuuchi, and I did confirm 27 consecutive basho in Juryo for Mitoryu.
That's nuts.
Out of 31 basho. So
he got a Tsukidashi, right? He started in Makushita.
Yep. Instantly
got to Juryo, and then he's been there for 7 years. Or wait,
divided
by 6. So like 4.5 years.
Yeah, since the first Basho of 2018,
Wow.
he has been in Juryo without going up or down once.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
One other point on Dayamami. I had forgotten that he pulled out for that injury, which means he gets the elusive double Fusen tournament.
Mm-hmm. Don't see that very often.
Normally, you gotta
And
pay
maybe
double
we
for that
still
kind of
haven't
action.
seen that recently because we're not counting that second Fusen.
I don't
The
know.
record books will show it, so we'll count it.
Yeah.
Maegashira 16 West, our final ranking is a little bit trickier. The next Rikishi that we could pull up from Juryo if we wanted to is Hira Doumi, who had a 10-5 record from Juryo 8, and he only deserves to be Juryo 3. So we would have to have a pretty slam dunk case for somebody to be demoted, and I believe we do have that slam dunk in Shima Noumi, who was 1-14 from Maegashira 9. So Hira Doumi deserves to be 2 ranks ahead of Shima Noumi, so he kind of passes that test. That's basically when we're figuring if a Juryo Rikishi should be ranked ahead of Makuuchi Rikishi. Basically kind of what we've seen. They need to deserve to be ranked ahead of them by 2 ranks. Hira Doumi passes that test against Shima Noumi. The other test that we passed is checking history. Is there precedent for this? So there are 5 cases where a Rikishi from Juryo 8 had a 10-5 record, and that was deemed good enough for promotion to the Makuuchi division. And that includes Yichi Yamamoto, who was promoted just last year. So very recent case where a 10-5 record from Juryo 8 was good enough to make it up to Makuuchi. And there are no cases in the modern era, which is the 6 basho per year, 15 matches per basho era, which has been going on since 1958, where a Rikishi with a 1-14 from Maegashira 9 stayed in the top division. Granted, it's only happened 4 times in the modern era and not since 1977, but that's still good enough for me to send Shima Noumi down to Juryo and bring Hira Doumi up to Makuuchi to make his debut in Aki. So that is the predicted highly wrong, extremely volatile Aki Banzuke. We brought 3 guys up from Juryo to Makuuchi. It means we got to send 3 guys down. Those once again being Shima Noumi, Dayamami, Chiyomaru. Typically, we ask, "What does Jake think I got wrong?" But I again need to reiterate, what do I think I got wrong?
I was going to pick the same things that you wrote down for yourself.
Okay,
it's pretty obvious there are a couple standouts that are even goofier than the rest.
Yeah, I almost wish I could enter Guess the Banzuke twice. One with this Banzuke that I presented here, where we gave promotions to Koto Nawaka and Ichi Yamamoto, despite them not getting 8 wins in the ring, but having winning records for when they were in the dojo. I'm very 50-50. Part of me thinks, yeah, they deserve it. They were doing good. That would be fair to them. And the other part's like, well, they didn't earn 8 wins on the ring, so they'll just freeze their rank. And then the other thing is Ryuden ahead of Takanosho. If I could redo this Banzuke, which I absolutely could. I could enter Guess the Banzuke with this other one, but I have integrity. I went through this, explained my reasoning for why I'm doing it. So that's what I'm sticking with. And that's what Jake pointed out, what he thought would be wrong. So we're going to use that.
Yeah, they're the clear exceptions I was going to bring up. Also, I feel like I would be very safe in saying, in my opinion, they're absolutely going to count those Fusens as losses. In a time where that becomes a tiebreaker, I would put money on them counting the Fusen loss as a loss.
So you think Tamawashi and Tsurugisha would be in line for demotions?
Yeah,
they're the only ones that it would really make a big difference.
They're the only, yeah, because for a lot of the guys, like you mentioned, like whether you count it or not, the result is pretty much the same. But I just feel like that's more in line with when Isegahama says fairness. You know, it probably gonna count those Fusen losses. That's my opinion. So those 2 would be fun. Tamawashi, you know, those would be fun ones to watch just to see, do they count it? Because I think this is the first time we've ever had like mid-basho COVID withdrawals, right?
Yes, exactly. Which is why this makes it so tough, and we don't know how they're going to handle it.
Like we've had all sorts of withdrawals, but never for COVID specifically.
Yep.
Never during the tournament, and especially ones where the guy who got pulled out wasn't the one who tested positive.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and another thing is like people are saying, well, JSA is still going to recognize like Tamawashi and Nishikigi's undefeated streak. How can you do that with a Fusen loss?
Yeah.
So maybe they don't recognize the
Just for
Fusen
those
loss
two
when calculating records. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're going to find out all of the answers to this mysterious Banzuke when it is released August 29th. And then we're going to have the basho that this Banzuke is based off of starting September 11th. And so we'll have another 2 weeks of sumo. Hopefully that don't involve anybody being pulled out due to COVID. If you enjoy this podcast, you could leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast listening service.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz. Grand Sumo Breakdown at gmail.com, grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com, and leave us a voicemail at 805-613-SUMO, 805-613-7866. Don't miss all that amateur stuff coming up. I'm going to put that in the episode description, just that quick calendar overview. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff if you are interested in amateur US sumo. Plenty coming up this fall.
Yeah, and when I post the Banzuke on Twitter and you want to send your criticisms on there, save it. Just save it for anybody that's was pulled out due to COVID, because literally that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah. Argue with each other rather than me.
Yeah. Nobody knows. So it's pointless telling me that I'm wrong, because you don't know. This has never happened. You don't know.
You don't know. Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you? Who am I? We don't know. If you want to argue with me about putting Ryuden ahead of Takanosho, all right, that's fair. Let's have that argument.
Sure.
I don't want to hear it. Be nice to me. I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable.
I want to stay top 10 in the world and guess the Banzuke.
All I have is competition, and if I'm not doing good at it, then I don't want to do it anymore. Sore loser.
It's a stupid Banzuke anyways.
Yeah, it is. All right. Thanks for listening to us this far. We don't deserve it.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time,
Throw your salt high.
And keep moving forward.